Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today, we have a pretty serious show for you guys here today. So before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, I've been thinking long and hard about how to approach this show, and I spent all day thinking about the angle at which I wanted to talk about this particular subject. As some of you may be aware, yesterday a report came out surrounding Ja Morant and an altercation that took place between him, his teammates, and the Indiana Pacers. Allegedly, they got into a dust-up on the court. Words were exchanged. And usually when things like that happen, it usually ends there. But in this particular case, it didn't, at least according to reports. At the end of the game, there was some stories about, while they were in the tunnel, Ja Morant's people were still exchanging words with some of the Pacers players. And then they said while they were on the road, there was a car, I believe, driving next to next to the Indiana Pacers bus, and a red laser was flashed into the bus. And they said, allegedly Ja Morant was in that bus. They conducted an investigation. That was their findings. And then Ja Morant came out on Twitter, and he posted a statement about it. Now, yesterday, they asked Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe to touch on the issue, right? And all of you know, obviously, Shannon Sharpe has had his dust-ups with the Memphis Grizzlies and Ja Morant himself. So what we want to do is we want to play exactly what Shannon Sharpe had to say about the news he heard, and then we're going to come back and give you guys our thoughts. Take a listen to that.
I wish Ja would realize that he's not a thug. Ja is a really good basketball player. Ja did everything he could to lift himself and his family out of this type of environment and to get away from this. And for some reason, he wants to surround himself with these type of people. Why? Bro, you not hard. That's not your life. People that in that life would give anything to be in your life.
Great point.
For some reason, you got a $200 million contract, and you want people in the NBA to think you hood, to think you gangster, because you roll with these type of people. Bro, you putting yourself in harm's way when you don't have to. Nobody looks at you, John, and think, man, that's a thug. He hood. He down. He about that. You not. Stop pretending. All you do is yap and talk about, I'm going to let him live to see another day. I'm going to do this. You're not going to do nothing. What you're going to do is get yourself in trouble, put yourself and your family in harm's way when you don't have to. Just play basketball. If you want to do all that chirping and all that about y'all good, how great you are, even though your record indicate, since you made your statement, Dylan Brooks made his statement, you've been awful, have at that. I got no problem. I wish you wouldn't talk so much, considering y'all talk so much to have done so little. That's a part of it. I get that. But this, what you're going about, pretending like you down like that, that you tote, that you carry, bruh, you putting yourself in harm's way. And it's not a good look for you. Stop this, man. This is not you. You played basketball to get out of this environment. You could, I guarantee you got homeboys. You say that's your fam. You tweet out that's your fam that probably had talent like you, but they chose that life. Bro, you need to let that go. Because that's not you. It's not. You pretend like you hard, but you're not, Ja. You opening yourself up. You're putting yourself in a position you don't even need to be in. And for what? For street cred? Come on, bro.
So you heard what Shannon had to say there. Here are my thoughts on this. I want you guys to bear with me because I got a lot of thoughts on this particular thing. I want to give you guys a backstory. Some of you know I was born in Maryland, but I did grow up in New York. Grew up in, went and spent my junior high, my high school years there. Grew up in the Bronx. Grew up in Yonkers. If you know anything about New York and the Bronx and Yonkers, you know what you know. And when I got to the Bronx, the Bronx was it was a different environment for me, and you adapt to where you are, especially as a kid. You're going to adapt to your environment. And, got into a lot of fights. I remember one time, to this day, when I think back at my early years, I'm like, was I possessed? I'm like, what the hell is wrong? I remember the time I was coming home from school. We're leaving school. We're at the block, and I saw this kid looking at me across the street. And he was like ice grilling me. So I'm looking at him like, what the hell is this guy looking at, right? We exchanged some looks. I was with one of my friends. I get home. One of my friends, the guy that dropped me in my house, my friend, he said, "Oh, I saw that kid on the way back from school, and he said that if he sees you and his friend, if he sees me again, he's gonna mess me up, or my mom, or something like that." The minute he said that, I was like, okay. Next morning, went to school, got a few of my friends, like maybe 3 or 4 guys. Not because I needed them to help fight my battles, but in case we got there and there were any issues, I would have some people to defend me. Went there, the dude was right there, walked across the street to him. And I'm thinking about this in broad daylight, like in the afternoon after school. Just think about the craziness. Walk up to him, I'm like, "Yo, I heard you was talking whatever." And he was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I heard you." So I'm like, "I heard you said," I was like, "Yo, Jonathan, you said that he said this and this and this and this." And then Jonathan says, "No, he didn't say that." And then one of my friends was like, "Then y'all got to scrap." And we went across the street, scrapped. And then we dapped it up, whatever. I say all of that to say that growing up in these type of environments, the slightest things set people off. The slightest things. It could be somebody looks at you for 3 seconds too long, 2 seconds too long. Somebody bumps into you by mistake. You may step on somebody's shoe by mistake, and it may lead to something, right? And I sit back and I'm like, I can relate to this stuff, not at the level that some guys are really like. Some guys are really, really, I'm not at that level at all. I'm not a tough guy, nothing like that. But I'm aware of it, obviously, growing up there. But I'm not anything like that. I'm not at all. Don't claim to be that whatsoever. I'm not that at all. So ain't nothing wrong with admitting it. I'm not. But it, like, the slightest things can lead to violence. The littlest things annoy people. And I noticed that growing up, one of the things that got guys into a lot of altercations is the need of feeling like you need to prove you're tough, and also being hypersensitive. If somebody feels you're soft in any kind of way, then you got to prove yourself, right? There's always this balancing act. And I feel like, I don't know John Morant, but I feel like John Morant is coming from that same kind of element where he kind of feels like, and maybe he may know, I don't know him, but maybe he may know tough people or whatever, but there's a part of it that I kind of get the sense that he's trying to prove himself, that I'm tough, that I'm this, that I'm that, right? And always ready to puff up his shoulders, which a lot of guys do. So I understand it. That's why I wanted to take it from this particular angle. I don't want to speak from a distance. I want to speak from something I can relate to. And you always want to prove yourself. But as you get older and you sit back and you look at these things, you then ask yourself, what was all of that about? What was all of that about? And when I got out of high school and I got to college, I was like, I don't want to fight nobody. I only had like maybe 1 or 2 fights since high school, because nothing good comes from that. Nothing good comes from it. You just put yourself in more jeopardy. Nothing good comes from it. So if you can avoid it, try to. Makes no sense. I heard Michael Jai White, who looks like he could, rough up anyone. He's like, if you like, just try to avoid it, right? And this is somebody that can actually physically harm people. And he's like, just try to avoid it. And in the case of John Morant, and reacting to what Shannon Sharpe said, here's the sad part about it. The sad part is Shannon Sharpe is sending a message of, bro, they don't view you like this, as this tough guy. John Morant may hear that, unfortunately, and internalize it as, oh, they think I'm soft. Back to my original point. And the cycle continues. The vicious cycle continues. And at the end of all of it, you ask yourself, what is this all for? You realize it's for nothing. You realize it's for nothing. I watch a lot of videos on YouTube. There's a channel, is it Hood Vlogs or something like that? Maybe it's the channel Hood Vlogs. And this guy goes to every neighborhood. I've seen him go to so many different neighborhoods in in California. Now, the New York ones they're not really interesting to me because I grew up in New York. There's nothing really interesting about that. It's usually other places. And he goes there and he's, where did he go? I think he went to Compton or something. I forgot what gang he was talking to. And he spoke to one of the guys, right? This is somebody that's entrenched in it. And he asked him, I think, to say, like, so what are your thoughts on this? And he goes, man, it ain't about nothing, man. Ain't none for it. Like, there's nothing in it. This is what somebody that's, and meaning that if I could be doing something else and I had an opportunity to be in a situation where I can better myself, I would rather be doing that. But because I'm in this particular situation, I got to be what I got to be to survive. In the case of John Morant, you're a multi-millionaire many times over. You will never be in those situations, in those areas, unless you put yourself in those areas. It really comes down to your behavior. And we can say, well, why doesn't his dad do this? Why doesn't his dad do that? But you know what? It takes the responsibility off of the individual. What do I mean? Look at LeBron James. I heard Jay Williams bring up this point, and it's an excellent one. LeBron James didn't grow up with his father at home. He didn't, I don't think, I haven't heard of any like uncles and all that, maybe the way you hear about Kawhi or Kyrie and things like that. But how was LeBron able to steer clear of it? And you look at his friends, they are all successful. They just stayed away from the BS and they just focused on growth and positivity. And then you look at other people that don't have maybe the family structure of a parent around them and they go down a totally different path. So to me, it comes down to the individual at the very end. Because LeBron has been where John Morant's been. He's been there, right? Most hype, all of this stuff, coming into new money. LeBron went in a different direction. And Ja seems to be going in a different direction from LeBron. And to me, I just know that in the end, it's not going to be worth it. There's nothing positive that's going to come from it. Now, before I close, I also want to say this. I understand the lure of going back to where you came from, especially when you come from humble beginnings. Some people feel an extreme tug at their hearts to go back where they were born and where they grew up. There's some people like that. My father's like that. My father's Nigerian Igbo man, and he's from his village with me where he originates from, and he's there every week. Literally every week. He's always there. Right now, he's not just there for the hell of it. He works and does stuff there, but he's there. And to someone like that, they love it. Right? They love to be back where they're from. They love it. Walking around and just being around the people. And you see very, very rich guys walk like normal people, walking up and down the road. Just walk and go for a stroll, right? If you meet them in their normal lives, these are very, very wealthy men, but they just, because that's their home. But the fundamental difference is when these guys are going home, you're not going home to an area where violence is running rampant. Usually they're going home to be around their families, to better their communities, build roads, build schools, do these things, trying to better their community. There's no physical threat. Now, sometimes obviously there is, and it's real, right? There are real cases of it where you need armed security and all of this. That's real. This element is definitely real. But at the core of it, it's not that. In the case of John Morant, nobody's going to view you as less of a person. They're going to applaud you for making it out. It doesn't mean that you just forget your people. You don't do anything. No, you can do things for them, but try to stay away from the BS. Because in my personal view, it ain't worth absolutely nothing. There's no fight I've been in where I thought back and said, y'all had to prove that I wasn't soft. It don't matter. It don't really matter. Proving yourself to this dude, proving yourself. If you want to prove something to your parents. Prove something to your kids. Prove something to your family. Prove something to your community. Don't prove to no dude that, okay, if I look at you, I look at you, look at me, I'm a scrap, and then I beat him up. And then so what? What comes next? Nothing. Some dudes around you be like, yo, this dude is real, he real, we real. But what are we doing? What are we really doing? right? And that's where they talked about the element of the people that he keeps around him. To me, I think is a nuanced conversation. It's not as simple as, oh, well, just stay away from these people. That's the obvious thing to say. But if you sit back and you really think about it, there's more at play. And that's the reason I wanted to come at this topic this way. I know it's a little bit long-winded, but these are my thoughts. So what I want to know from you guys is, what do you think about some of the points that I had to make? What do you think about some of the points that Ja Morant had to make? And if you were someone that could be in an advisory position to Ja Morant, what advice would you give him? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section, and we catch you guys on the next show.